The latest version 7.1 v2 calculations give us a much clearer picture of how Vesna and Vodyanitsa are currently performing. And some of the results are honestly pretty surprising. Vesna is looking much better than expected, but Vionitsa is a different story. And there's one important detail behind the biggest Vesna damage number that you definitely need to know before getting excited. So today, we're going through the latest V2 calculations, looking at Vesna's teams, weapons, and constellations, and most importantly, figuring out which character makes more sense for your Primo gems right now. Before we start, credit for the calculations and data used in this video goes to Rahulfigas20. And one important note, these are current beta calculations, not official Hoyoverse performance figures. The numbers and character details can still change before version 7.1 releases. Let's get into it. Let's start with Vesna. The latest calculations give us a much better idea of how she could perform once version 7.1 arrives. One of the biggest numbers being shown is around 180,000 team damage per second. That sounds amazing, but there is a catch. That particular calculation uses Vesna, Firuzin, Traveler, and Odette, and the setup relies on a C6 Traveler configuration that the calculation itself currently marks as unobtainable. So you shouldn't look at that 180,000 number and assume that's what every Vesna team will do. Instead, the more realistic team comparisons are much more useful. One of the provided calculations puts Vesna with Firuzin, Diana, and Odette at around 155,000 team damage per second. And even that setup has an important Firuzin constellation requirement. So your actual results will depend on your characters, weapons, artifacts, and rotations. But the main takeaway is simple. Vesna's current damage potential looks very promising. Now we get to the part that really caught my attention. There is a comparison between Vesna teams using Vionitsa and Sucrose. The Vesna, Vionitsa, Traveler, and Odette team is calculated at around 165,000. The version using Sucrose is around 163,000. That's only around a 2,000 difference in that particular calculation. At first, that might make Vionitsa look like an obvious upgrade. But there's another thing you need to consider. The Vionitsa team requires more investment. So if you're spending a limited 5-star character just to gain a relatively small increase over a team using a 4-star character you may already own, the value becomes harder to justify. That does not mean Vionitsa is bad. Her current kit is still interesting. She has healing, interruption resistance, resistance reduction, and mechanics connected to Stellar Swirl. But based on these current calculations, her value specifically in these Vesna teams isn't looking as overwhelming as expected. So if you're mainly interested in building Vesna teams, you should probably wait for more beta changes before deciding on Vionitsa. Her final value could look very different if her numbers or mechanics are adjusted. Now, let's talk about something that could save you a lot of Primo gems. Vesna's signature weapon is currently at the top of the provided weapon comparison, but it sits at around 117% of the event weapon baseline. And that's important. The free version 7.1 event weapon is being used as the 100% baseline. R5 Molten Blade is around 112%. The R5 7.1 Gotcha weapon is around 108%. Azure Light is around 104%. And several other weapons are sitting surprisingly close to the baseline. So if you're free to play or a low spender, you shouldn't feel pressured to get Vesna's signature weapon. Vesna plus the free event weapon is a much more reasonable investment. The signature weapon is still an upgrade, but based on these current calculations, it looks more like a luxury upgrade than something Vesna needs to perform well. And that's great news for your Primo gem budget. Instead of spending more wishes on her weapon, you could put those Primo gems toward another character, or simply save them. Now, let's talk about constellations. This is where things get much more interesting. The current calculations put Vesna's C1 at around 123% of the C0 team baseline. C2 reaches around 153%. C3 is around 172%. And C6 reaches roughly 254%. Obviously, C6 is a completely different level of investment. For most players, there is no reason to chase it simply because the calculation shows a huge increase. If you want Vesna, C0 should be your starting point. And if you get lucky with your wishes and still have enough primo gems left, C1 is the constellation worth considering first. C2 is also a major upgrade, but it requires significantly more investment. So unless Vesna is one of your absolute favorite characters, going beyond C1 probably isn't where you should put your primo gems. Vionitsa's constellation improvements are more gradual at the beginning. The current calculations put her C1 at around 110% of the C0 team baseline. C2 reaches roughly 133%. C3 is around 134%. And C6 reaches roughly 166%. Again, these are calculations under specific conditions, but they give us an idea of how much her value can increase with investment. And this is another reason to take your time with her banner. Her concept is interesting. A Hydro support with healing and Stellar Swirl utility could become very useful. But with a limited number of primo gems, waiting for more beta information is the safer choice right now. Now, let's make this simple. If you want a new damage dealer, Vesna is currently the more attractive option. Her current calculations look promising. She has multiple weapon options, and she doesn't appear to require her signature weapon to perform well. If you specifically want a Stellar Swirl support, you should wait on Vionitsa for now. Not because she is bad. The current numbers simply aren't convincing enough to justify rushing into her banner. If you're free to play or a low spender, Vesna C0 with a free event weapon is probably the most sensible approach. You get the character without needing to spend additional primo gems on her weapon. And if you already have enough strong damage dealers, save. You don't need to pull a character just because the current calculations look impressive. There are still plenty of characters coming throughout Snezhnaya. After looking at all of this, my opinion has changed a little. I was already interested in Vesna, but these calculations make me more confident about her. What I like most is that you don't seem forced to go all in. If Vesna releases close to her current state, C0 looks completely reasonable. If you have enough primo gems left afterward, C1 is where I'd consider investing further. But I would skip the signature weapon unless you have a lot of spare primo gems and specifically want to maximize her. For Vionitsa, I'd take the opposite approach. Her concept is interesting, and I can definitely see her becoming valuable. But right now, waiting makes more sense. So if you're choosing between the two based on the current information, Vesna is the safer choice. And if neither character is important for your account, save your primo gems. One final reminder. Everything we've discussed today is based on current beta calculations and testing information. These are not official Hoyoverse performance figures. The numbers depend on specific teams, builds, assumptions, and testing conditions. And beta changes can affect character multipliers, mechanics, weapons, teams, and the calculations themselves. So don't treat these numbers as final. Use them to understand the current situation, and if you're unsure about spending your primo gems, waiting for more official information is always an option. So for now, the verdict is pretty simple. Vesna looks like the safer choice. Vionitsa is the one you should wait on. Vesna's signature weapon looks like a luxury rather than a necessity. And for most players, C0 is where you should start. Huge credit again to Raholfiga's 20 for the V2 calculations, team comparisons, weapon data, and constellation information used in this analysis. And remember, these are current beta calculations, so everything can still change before version 7.1 officially releases. If you found this useful, leave a like and subscribe for more Genshin Impact analysis, banner updates, and Snezhnaya news. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.